Yeah, with Alex, I always find very interesting how, people who are in the margins of society, specifically in this case, trans people, they manage to, people usually think that they're usually in the clubs, they're like on events, LGBTQ events, some sort of destinations that they're obvious, you know what I mean? And they usually photograph. For me, I think it's more interesting when you find them in everyday life with confidence. They're very guarded. I think that they're very guarded, but they never stop being who they are. And I find that very interesting. And I photograph, over the decades, I photograph a lot of them. For me, it's important to photograph people in their own environmental area, where they basically grew up, hang out, work. Normal people, they're just normal people like us. But I wanted to, I always been very interested how they interact in society in general, not only in a specific, environment like an LGBTQ event, pride, clubs. These people, just like us, have a normal life. They go to work, they have families, they have friends, they gotta go to the bodega, they gotta go and get their nails done. And in the case of Alex, what I found so interesting is that number one, I'm gonna zoom over where he is. That way we could, know what we're talking about here. Um, he's right there. Can you see it? Okay. So in case of Alex, I was very fascinated by his look because it's sort of very defiant, and I like the fact that he was very confident in who he is in an area that is completely, we're talking about the area of Fordham Road, in the inner city, and it's not Fifth Avenue, and it's not a place that, people might be seen to be more acceptable. But yet he managed to navigate through the neighborhood, and I photographed him in front of the wall, on the sidewall of his job, which is Muñeca Nails, where Marc Jacobs goes and does his nails done. I found out that later on, through social media. So he's a nail artist, and I thought that he was very interesting that the way the T-shirt that he was wearing, how he used that T-shirt to self-identify herself as, transgender, and then this goes along, people don't have the resources, the money, like Caitlyn Jenner and other people that have all this, accessibility to become who they really are or they want to be. And but yet I like that identification, self-identification of who she wants to be, who she is. And of course, the nails, which is pretty outrageous, and his whole personality was just very confident, and I really admired that. I thought that was very um, worth capturing. The people that I like to photograph are people that are really confident, that they have a star quality, and they stand out in the crowd. I just thought that was very interesting to see how they interact in their own immediate community, and to my surprise and most people, I feel they're pretty accepted. They're not
That's
judged.
mhm.
Even in areas that they're considered kind of macho society, I seen that there's a level of acceptance, of LGBTQ people that I photograph over the decades. And again, the only way you only see that is if you really go out there and see it and witness it. It's not staged. I don't stage my work. I like to photograph people where they are because they are most comfortable in their own environment. And for me, it's interesting, again, it goes back to my fascination how these people stand out from the crowd, and they, might not look normal to some, but for me, there's a sense of the way they navigate through the city, there's a sense of normalcy in their own everyday life. They're just people like us, like any of us.